We begin today the Gemara on Daf Lamed Aleph, right at the beginning of the Amud. Gufe Amar Rav Chisda, to go back to a statement of Rav Chisda that we learned before. And this is continuing the subject of Kom Lei B'Derabah Minei, which means that when there are two things that a person becomes obligated at the same time, which is a chiyuv of Mise, or according to Rav Nechunya ben Akane, even a chiyuv of Kares. And together with that comes a chiyuv Mamoin, so it's going to pat you, because you have a greater punishment, it patters you for the lighter punishment or the lighter obligation, which is to pay money. So on this Rav Chisda said, Moide Rav Nechunya ben Akane, Rav Nechunya ben Akane will agree, Begoin of Chalva Shel Chaveiroi, if a person steals fats from his friend, so here there's a geneve, so he has to pay, and va'achloi, and he went ahead and ate it. So he ate it, yid chaylev yechayev kares. Shuchayev, that he is going to be obligated to pay for what he stole, even though there's also kares involved. Why? Because it doesn't come at the same time. Shekvan is chayev b'gneve, because he's already chayev to pay for what he stole, kaidem sheyav l'deis chaylev, before he eats it and before he comes to the issa of chaylev and the kares. So in this case, the chiyuv kares does not absolve from the payment for the gneve that was before. Says the Gemara, Leime, shall we say, Pliga de Rab Ovin, that Rav Chisda's opinion here is arguing with Rab Ovin's opinion. The Rab Ovin said the following halacha: Hazoyrik chetz, a person on Shabbos threw an arrow, Metchilas arba l'soif arba, in the Rishus Harabim. So one of the things in the Rishus Harabim on Shabbos that's not allowed is to carry or to throw something daled amas. So he threw an arrow from the beginning to the end of 4 amas. And v'kara shiroin balichase. Along the way, this arrow also went and tore somebody's garment, somebody's silk garment.
2 things.
So that now he has a chilul Shabbos, and also he damaged someone's possession. So Rav Avin said that we apply the concept here of Kom Lei B'Derabah Minei, and why is that? Potter. He'll be potter for paying, even though you may think that the payment that he's obligated happened before he's chayiv for the chilul Shabbos, because when did it tear the person's garment? Before it landed. When it was still before it passed and came to land at the end of the 4 amas. So he's already chayiv to pay before. And the chilul Shabbos takes place afterwards, once it lands. But nevertheless, Rab Ovin says, Sha'akire tzorech hanochihi, that because when he threw the arrow, and so that akira, when he releases it from his hand, so that was with the intention and with the purpose that it should land later at the end of the Dal Damis. So therefore, from the beginning of the action, it's already a Chol Shabbos. And therefore, he'll be chayiv for what it tore, so therefore what it tore along the way, which obligates him to pay, is considered to be something that happened together at the same time as the Chil Shabbos, so he's going to be potter. That's what Rabbi Avin said. So the pshat, so I'm teaching the pshat the way Rashi says it. What is akira tzorech? I understand what you're saying, but Rashi says akira tzorech hanocha means the kavana. Rabbi Ovin's logic was you got to look at the kavana, and if this was his kavana, so then it's already considered to be like the isser is here. Says the Gemara, if that's the pshat, that you look at the kavana of the person, if so hachanami over here as well, going back to what Rav Chisda said regarding the person that picked up this piece of chaylev from someone's property and he stole it and then he ate it. So we should say the same thing. Hagba, when he's picking it up with the intention to put it into his mouth, tzorech achili. So then he's doing it with the kavanah to pick it up and put it into his mouth. So therefore this geneve and the isser of eating it should be considered that it's happening at the same time, that it's coming together.
He can stop it.
Let's see. The Gemara is very smart. Let's see what the Gemara says. Answers the Gemara, hachi hashta. How could you compare these 2 cases? And the Gemara gives actually 2 answers to this. One answer is Hasam if shelahanocha b'lo yakire. First of all, when it comes to the arrow that you're doing the malacha of Dal Damis, you can't have the malacha of placing it at the end of the space of the Dal Damis without lifting it up in the space where it is presently. There has to be both parts of this malacha in order for the malacha to be complete. That's how the malacha of Eitzah, or in this case, Havadas Dal Damis and Rishus Harabim takes place. We're lifting it up where it is and then moving it 4 amas and putting it down. So therefore, wait a second. So therefore, you must have both the Akira and the Hanacha for this malacha to take place. And therefore, if you tear something in the middle of this process, it's together with the Chilul Shabbos. But over here it's different. Hachanami hagba. One second. Hacha, sorry, went up a line. Hacha efshar lachila b'lo hagba. Over here, though, it's possible for a person to eat without picking it up. It's not part of the issur of eating this fat does not entail picking it up. Not necessarily the ibai, because if a person wants gachem vachel, he could just bend down and eat it without even lifting it up at all. Or Rashi actually says that he doesn't have to lift it up 3 tfachim. What happens is, if he lifts it up 3 tfachim, so then he's kainet, right? Lifting it up 3 tfachim, that's a kinyan. And then you put it into your mouth and then you eat it. So Rashi says, you don't have to lift it up 3 tfachim. So if you bend down and you eat it without lifting it up 3 tfachim, you kainet it in your mouth when you're eating it. So over here, the whole agabah is not even a necessary step for the isser. So how could you say that if you picked it up first and then you went and ate it, that the process of picking it up is already part of the isser? You're doing a necessary step for this. It's not a necessary step at all. Taisus actually adds it's the drop different than Rashi. When the Gemara says boy gachem va'achol, Rashi says that you can lift it up, but as long as you don't lift it up 3 tfachim, you weren't kainet yet. But the Taisus says no, not necessarily. When you lift something up, even below 3 tfachim, but if it's in your hands, the moment it's in your hands, there's a kinyan of yad, you're kainet. Rather, the Taisus says what the Gemara means to say is that you can bend down without picking it up at all. You just eat it up off the ground as is, or maybe even on the table, wherever it is, without touching it. So in such a way, you don't even need the akbar at all. So how can you say that that's part of this process of the issa you're doing here? That's one distinction. Yinami, another distinction is Hasam. Before, when we're speaking about throwing the arrow, Iboy Ladura. Over there, it's not. Sorry, let's explain this again. Not Hasam over there is not by the arrow. When you eat this truma, you steal the truma, you eat it. Iboy Ladura. He picks it up. He stole it. He can put it back down. If he wants, he can put it back down. But over here, Loi Matzi Mahadillah. Again, you read it together. Yinami hasam ibayla dure lematzi mahadala. Over there, when it comes to the arrow, if you want to retract that arrow that you released from your hand that's flying, you can't take it back anymore. It's flying and it's going to land where it lands. Hacha matzi mahadala. Over here, the person that picks it up, he's able to put it back down. So therefore, there's a huge difference. When it comes to something that you're able to put back down, so what does that show you? That the hagbah, when you picked it up, you can't say that this is the beginning of the process of your eating. It's not the beginning of that process. It's something that you can do or take back. So you can't say, my eating began already. It didn't begin yet. Even if theoretically it would be necessary for a person to pick it up in order to be able to eat it. He can't bend down. Like the Gemara before said he could bend. So even if theoretically he can't bend down, and he has to pick it up to be able to eat, but he picks it up, he could put it back down. So you can't say that when he picked it up, he began eating it already. So he's not, the issur of eating did not begin yet. Whereas if you throw an arrow and you release it from your hands, the chil Shabbos began. Because that action you did is done. As far as you're concerned, you threw it, you can't take it back, the issur is done already. So therefore, if you tear something along the way, it's happening together with chil Shabbos. Says the Gemara, Ma'yike ben haylishna lahaylishna. How? We have here 2 answers. So how can we explain what's the difference, a practical difference between these 2 distinctions the Gemara just said to answer why Rav Chisda and Rav Oven are not arguing? Says the Gemara, the difference would be Hamavir Sakin B'Rishus Rabin, a person that was walking with a knife in the street on Shabbos. He didn't throw it, but he was walking and he's holding the knife. The knife is stretched out and he's holding it. And as he's walking, he tears someone's garment. So over here, the question is, do I apply the concept of Kamle B'Derabim Minei that he's chayiv to pay in the time that he did the Chil Shabbos? So lahach lishne d'amrit, according to the first answer that you said, that in this malacha, these are 2 components of the malacha, where it's not possible to have the malacha with one without the other. The hanacha, putting it down, has to have first the lifting it up. So therefore, it's already in the process of the malacha. Hachanami, over here in this case, even though he's walking, he's holding the knife in his hands. They never released it from his hands. But he's already in the process of the malacha. It's impossible to move it 4 amas without moving it, taking it from lifting it up where it is and putting it down in another place. So in such a case, he would be potter because of kamle midarabimene as well. But according to the second answer, the reason why when he threw the arrow that he's considered to be already a Machal Shabbos, and therefore if he tears someone's garment he'll be potter, it's only because he can't retract what he did, so the action is done already. It's already a Chilul Shabbos as far as the action that he did. Over here the person walking with this knife, he walked 2 amas. And then he's tearing something at that point of 2 amas, he can walk back. He won't necessarily ever end up doing the Chilul Shabbos. After he ends up going another 2 amas, so it turns out that he did the full Chilul Shabbos. But at that point though, when he tears someone's garment, it's not, he only did half of the malach and that he could retract it. So in such a case, you can't say that the tearing of the garment is happening together with the Chilul Shabbos. So that is a practical difference between these 2 answers. Now to focus more on this statement that we just learned here of Rav Avin. Rav Avin said, you throw this arrow from the beginning of 4 amas and it lands at the end of 4 amas. And it tears someone's garment on the way when it flies. Potter, so you'll be potter, sha'akire tzaydech hanochehi. The kavan of your akir is for the purpose of the hanoche, so therefore it's already in the process of the Chilul Shabbos. Most of Rav Bevi bar Abaye, so Rav Bevi bar Abaye asks on what he said from a Braisa. Braisa says as follows. And the Gemara here will focus a lot on all the details of this Braisa. Hagayin of Kispe Shabbos, a person steals a wallet on Shabbos, so chayiv. So over here, he stole this wallet on Shabbos. So even if the way he stole it is, he took it out into the Rosh Hashanah. So he did a malacha, haitzah, from Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah. But he also stole, so he has to pay money. So chayiv, he will be chayiv to pay, even though he also did a Chilul Shabbos. Kamli b'derabim, it is not a plier. Shekvarnes chayiv b'geneva kaidem shevel deyis. Because he's chayiv for the geneva that he did when he picked up the wallet before he comes to the isaskila, which is when he takes it out to the Rosh Hashanah. However, says the Braisa, if he never picked it up in the private property of the owner, but he was just dragging it on the floor. So maybe it was not just a wallet, but it was a little bit of a bigger thing. The Gemara is soon going to discuss the size of this. And he's dragging it and he's taking it out into the Shus Rabim. So then he never was kainet until the moment that it actually comes out into the Shus Rabim, when he took it out of the owner's property. So now, Potter, he'll be potter to pay for the geneva. Share Issa Shabbos, the geneva bon kechot. The Issa that he did to take it out to the Rosh Hashanah, and the geneva that he did, that he stole it, came at the same exact moment when he took it into the Rosh Hashanah.
He stole it with Chachma.
So over here, the Gemara now asks on what Rav Avin said before. Ve'amai, why are we saying in the first case that when he picked it up, that he's going to be chayiv to pay, because the geneva came before and the Chilul Shabbos came later. Hochanami, here as well we should apply what Reb Avin said. Leime hagba tzayre chaytzah he, that this hagba is tzayre chaytzah. The hagba is all being done with the intention, with the purpose, in order to take it out. He wants to steal it. He wants to take it out. So therefore, these 2 things go together. And even though technically you can divide and say that the kinyan of the Geneva happened before and the Chilul Shabbos happens later when he takes it out, but the whole Hagbah is for the purpose to steal it, to take it out. So Taisus explains over here, the Gemara is asking this question only according to the first answer that it said before, which is that efsher hanacha b'lei akid. The Gemara before explained that when you have a situation where it's impossible to come to point B without going through point A or stage B before stage A, so the Gemara is saying the same thing over here. He wants to steal it. He's trying to take it out of the owner's possession. The only way he does that is by picking it up and bringing it out. So if so, it should all be considered to be one long process. But if you're going to go going to the second answer, the Gemara said before, that we only say that it's one long process if you released it from your hand and it's flying and you can't take it back. That's not a question over here. That's not the situation over here. So as Tosfos says, this is only a question on the first answer of the Gemara before. So according to that answer, this Braisa is a question of what Reb Avin said. Answers the Gemara, no, this Braisa, what is it speaking about? When he picked it up to steal it, so he picked it up and he did the Geneva by picking it up, but then his intention was that he's not going to take it out. He's going to find a spot somewhere in the owner's house to hide it and to keep it for himself over there. So the original Hagbah was not Seirech Haitzah that he's taking it out. And then taking it out would also be a Chilul Shabbos. It's 2 unrelated actions. One is not for the tzarech of the other. He wanted to put it down over there somewhere. Then the Nimlach Olav. And then he changed his mind, and then he decided to pick it up, or actually to continue walking with it. I mean, he doesn't have to be necessarily that he stopped, but he had one intention when he picked it up, and then he changed his mind and walked out with it. And therefore, in such a case, it's two separate things. There's the Agbah of the Gneva with the intention to leave it there inside, and then another thing, he decides to take it out. That's the Chil Shabbos.
How is the person chayiv for Gneva in the person's
picking it up? You could be kind with Hagbah even in a Shus Bailam. In Hagbah, there's other kinyanim, as the Gemara will soon explain. Meshicha, you're not kind in the Shus of the Bailam, but with Hagbah, you're kind of, but a Shus Bailam. So that's his Gneva. But frag the Gemara regarding Shabbos, if he picked it up and his intention was that he's going to hide it, put it down somewhere and hide it in the Rishus HaYachid where he is, and then midway walking he changes his mind that he decides he wants to take it out, in such a case would he even be chayiv for the Chilul Shabbos? The Malach of Hitzah would not apply here. Why not? Because a person is moving things around in his house on Shabbos from one corner to another. He never had the intention. When he picked it up, he didn't have in mind that he's going to take it out into the street. But then, in the middle of walking, he changes his mind and decides that he wants to take it out. And he took it out. Potter. He'll be potter. There's no the malacha here, the beginning of the malacha and the end of the malacha. There's no connection. The hitzah has to have an akira with a hanacha together, lifting it up here and taking it out into the Rishus Harabim. The akira doesn't connect to the hitzah because the akira was not with the intention of hitzah. So you're not chayiv for that. That's not what his intention with his akira lifting it up was, to take it out. So if so, we can't say that that's what this Brais is speaking about, that he picked it up in order to keep it over here in the Rishus HaYachid. Says the Gemara, you're right, so we have to switch this. You're right, must be that he picked it up in the beginning with the intention to take it out into the Rishus Harabim. So then how do we answer our question on Rab Oven before? But what are we speaking about over here? Kisha Omad. He got up, he picked it up with the intention to take it out, but he stopped. He stopped and then he continued walking. What happens if he stopped and continued walking? So then, what is the akira of this malach of Eitzah? The akira of the malach of the Eitzah is not the first akira when he picked it up. The akira of the malach of Eitzah was when he picked up his body again, after he stopped and he lifted his feet off the ground again to walk out. That's the akira. The akira of his body is the malacha. So therefore, the geneva and the malacha are detached from each other. He picked it up, and that's the hagbah of the geneva, and then the akira of his body is the akira for the Chilul Shabbos. So therefore, it's not together. So you can't say kam le b'derabim minei. So the Gemara now wants to understand. Wait a minute. He said he just stopped, right? So that interrupts the whole malacha. But who says? Not necessarily. Depends why he stopped. Amad lemai. Why did he stop over here? If he stopped because he simply had to position his packages, or make himself comfortable in the way he's walking, so then orchehu. This is something that is the normal behavior of a person while you're walking. Sometimes you stop just to be able to continue walking. You're never really stopping in that sense. So it's really all one continuation. It doesn't stop the original akira. Ella, we must say what's the case over here? Ba'oimid lafush. He stopped because he got tired. He wanted to rest. He wanted to really stop. If so, what are you going to tell me? But if he only stopped because he needed to make himself comfortable to position his packages to help him continue walking, so then what's the halach in such a case? Potter. So he will be potter to pay, because in such a case, the hagabah of the geneva is considered to be together with the process of the Chilul Shabbos, because he already began the akira of the malacha, and he's in the middle of that malacha, and he's not stopping it. If so on the Braise, the Braise comes to say a distinction. In the Sefer, the Braise says, the Toni. Why does it say in the Sefer, that if instead of picking up this object, he was just dragging it on the ground, and that's how he took it out to the Rishus Harabim, so then the Braise says he'll be potter for paying, because then his Geneva and the Chilul Shabbos comes together. It's not necessary to go to such an extreme case with dragging it on the floor. Nifleg v'nisni b'dida. The Braise could make a distinction regarding the case that it speaks about in the Reisha itself. When the person picks it up, he stops walking, and then he continues going out. Regarding that case itself, we can make a very simple distinction. When do I say that the Geneva and the Chilul Shabbos are not together, so he'll be chayiv to pay by midlafish? That's if he stopped in the middle, but he stopped to rest. But if he stopped just to position his package and is really in the middle of continuing walking, pater. In such a case, the Geneva and the Shabbos are together. There's no real interruption here. So why didn't the Braisa make this distinction? There's no reason to bring this case of Megara when he's dragging it on the floor. Says the Gemara, another pshat. Ella, rather, we don't have to say that he stopped at all. Loi, ha-mani, that is, all right. Ha-mani ben Azaihi. Who is the Braisa here that says this halacha, that the Chil Shabbos and the Geneva do not come together? This follows Ben Azai's opinion. What did Ben Azai say? The Omar mahalech ka'imedami. Every time a person walks, he's really like he's standing in one place. What that means is every time you take a step, you're never 2 feet off the ground. You're not jumping. Every time you walk, every walk consists of many, many stops that you're taking. Stop, go, stop, go, stop, go. So therefore, Ben Azai says, every time a person walks, there's no distinction. According to Ben Azai, there's no distinction. I'm at lafush, I'm at lakatif. Every walking always means stop, go, stop, go. So therefore, when you picked up this item in the Rishus HaYachid, you did a geneva, and then you're walking, which is stop, go, and then the last step out into the Rishus HaRabim, that's the final akida of the Malacha of Shabbos. That's Ben Azai's opinion. Okay, this is a very, very unique concept, what Ben Azai says. There's a famous Taisus here that says that according to Ben Azai, that every time you walk, it's stop, go, stop, go. So when you carry something 4 amos in the Rishus HaRabim, you should also be potter in such a case, because you're not chayav for malacha if you do it with constant interruptions. It has to be in one go that you take it 4 amos. But it's stop, go, stop, go. So how you chayav for taking something in 4 amos in Rishus HaRabim? So the answer Tosfos says here, you're going to have to say that that's a special halacha l'Moshe Misinai. Hilchas Gemira law, that's a special halacha l'Moshe Misinai that you would be chayav in that case. Okay, let's see the continuation of the Gemara, going back into the Braisa. So Ben Azai says that this is specifically when you're walking. So then you say that it's ka'imedami. Avol zayrik mai. But if you would throw this item that he stole here, that he picked up, so what are you going to say? Then you don't apply this. So then mai potter. So in such a case, he should be potter for paying. Because over here you can't separate the Geneva from the Chil Shabbos. He picks it up and throws it. So over here, you can't say that there's the Hagbah of the Geneva, and then there's the Chil Shabbos, because there's a separate Akira, a new Akira that's happening afterwards. There is no new Akira that's happening afterwards. There's one long Akira that's taking place over here, which includes the Geneva and the Chil Shabbos. So if so, we're back to the same question we asked before. Nifleig v'nisni b'dida. Let the Braisa make a distinction in the case that it's speaking about without getting into dragging it on the floor. When will he be chayiv to pay b'mahalach if he was walking? So then I can separate the Geneva from the Chil Shabbos. There's 2 different akiras. Avol zayrek, but if he threw it, potter, then he should be potter for pay because it's one long akira. There's no separation here between the Geneva and the Chil Shabbos. So why does it bring up the case of Megara, that he dragged it on the ground? And says the Gemara, Megara v'yotze itzrich. No, the Tana brings up this case of dragging it on the ground because there's a specific chiddush in this case, and he wants to teach you this chiddush. What's the chiddush? Salkadai chamine, because I would think to say, ein derech etzah b'kach. Dragging something on the ground, there's no Chil Shabbos because this is not doing the malacha in the ordinary way. One of the basic rules regarding Shabbos is you only chayav for the malacha if it's done without a shinui, without making any change in the way the action is usually done. So I would say that this is not the usual way. Kamash malon. That's why the Braisa wants to teach me this specific case, that you chayiv for doing it even by dragging it on the ground. According to some Rishonim, Tosfos brings this up here. This answer the Gemara gives now here would be a good answer not only for this pshat that it said now according to Ben Azai, but even going back to the previous pshat, where the Gemara also asks the same question: why do we have to bring up Megarer? So that this could be an answer even for the previous pshat that we said as well.
Like Kalachayal?
So yeah, this is the concept of Kalachayal, correct? Right. So, but now the Gemara clarifies. So what's taka the story? Is this the ordinary way to do this or not? Ubemai. So what are we speaking about over here? If the person is stealing a big suitcase of money, it says a kiss. So, but this is not just a little wallet, but he's stealing something big. So then then it's obvious that the normal way of how to take this is to shut it out. It's too heavy to carry, so there's no chiddush here. If it's a little wallet, so then it's taka true lav orcheyu. It's not normal to drag a wallet on the floor. Elo. So what's the chiddush of the Braisa? B'mitzi. It's a package, something which is not too large, not too small, and therefore it's not clear whether this is the ordinary way of taking it out. So that's the chiddush of the Braisa, that in such a case we consider it to be the ordinary way, and you be chayav for this. Now the Gemara gets into a whole other detail here regarding what it said here. Uda'afke leheche. What are we speaking about? He took this this wallet or this suitcase that he carried out, exactly to where did he take it out? Again, the point we're trying to say over here is that you have a chilul Shabbos and a geneva that's taking place together. So let's understand how this happens. If he took this out into the Rishus Harabim, so then the problem is as follows. Issa Shabbos ikke. There is a chilul Shabbos because he carried it out into the Rishus Harabim, but Issa Geneva leke. In such a case, there really is no Issa Geneva. Why is there no Issa Geneva? So what are we talking about over here? The Issa Geneva is that a person takes it out that he's kainet for himself. There's no Issa of, there's no kinyan. The Gemara, at this point at least, understands that what kinyan would this Ganav be trying to make? This Ganav wants to be kainet with the kinyan of Meshicha. Meshicha means when you take something towards you, and it has to be dafked when you take it into a private property. Taking it out into a public place of a Rishus Harabim, it will not qualify as a kinyan for Meshicha. So you took it out into the Rishus Harabim, you violated the private ownership of the person that it's his, but a kinyan you don't have it. And the geneva, the responsibility to pay for this geneva because of the kinyan did not take effect because you took it into the Rishus Harabim and there's no kinyan there. So if so, how can we say b'chlal that you're responsible to pay for this and there's a chiddush and because it's chilul Shabbos you're potter? There is no issa geneva here. Now on the other hand, if he took this wallet and he took it out to another Rishus Yachid, it was his property, his friend's property, he took it from his friend's property into his property, so then issa geneva ikke. So then he will be kainit, so there's a geneva here. But it's a Shabbos leke. But there is no Issa Shabbos. He wasn't mitzit into the Rishus Harabim. And says the Gemara, the only way to understand this brayse is the afke litzidei Rishus Harabim. He took it out to the sides of Rishus Harabim. What's the sides of Rishus Harabim? So Rashi brings, we learned this before. The Gemara says that in the Rishus Harabim, the ends of the street, closer to the houses, so over there, the people of the Rishus Harabim didn't really travel there as much. And also, they even had things that they used to put there as an obstruction that people shouldn't travel too close to the houses. So if you take it out to that area, so over here, it'll be both the chilul Shabbos and also the kinyan that is necessary for the Issa Geneva. So the Gemara wants to clarify this. So what are we talking about over here? Tzidei Rishus Harabim, the sides of the Rishus Harabim, according to whose opinion? There's really a machlokes about this, whether Tzidei Rishus Harabim is part of the Rishus Harabim or not. If we're following Rabbi Eliezer's opinion, the Omar Rabbi Eliezer's opinion is Tzidei Rishus Harabim ke Rishus Harabim damo. It has the same halacha like the Rishus Harabim itself. If so, we're back to the same question as before. Issa Shabbos ikke. So there's the Issa of Shabbos that you took it out into the Rishus Harabim, but Issa Geneva leka. There is no Issa Geneva. You're not kaina it in a Rishus Harabim. See, the Rishus Harabim is part of the Rishus Harabim. If we're following the Rabbanan's opinion that argue with Rabbi Lezer, the Omri, they say, see the Rishus Harabim, lav ke Rishus Harabim domo. The sides of the Rishus Harabim that's so close to the houses, people don't travel there, it does not have the halacha like Rishus Harabim. If so, the question is in the reverse. Is it Geneva ikke? So if so, the kinyan of Meshicha could take effect there. It's more of a private place, but it's a Shabbos leka. There is no Yisur of Shabbos. So still, we're stuck with this question here. What's the case where you have both the Issa Geneva and Issa Shabbos together? Answers the Gemara, Lo'olam ke Rabbi Eliezer. We can say this brayso follows Rabbi Eliezer's opinion that said that the sides of the Rishus Harabim is like the Rishus Harabim. Regarding what does he say that the sides of the Rishus Harabim are like the Rishus Harabim? Hani mili le'inyin chiyuv de Shabbos. This is regarding the Isser of Shabbos. Why? Because the Zimnin, the Dochki Rabim v'ayli lahosam. Because since this is an area when there's high traffic, so people do push into that area and travel there as well, it's considered to be part of the Rishus Harabim when it comes to Shabbos. But regarding having the ability to do the kinyan of Meshicha in that area, it's considered to be private enough that you can make a kinyan of Meshicha. Because my time, why? Because it's an area that the Rabbim are not usually there. Rashi here brings usually the kinyan of Meshicha is done in an area which is called a simta. A simta is like this place that's like off the Rishus Harabim. It's an open area for anybody to come there, but no, not a mavi, a simta. It's sort of like this area that's off the Rishus Harabim, but it's open, a public place, but the Rabbim don't travel there. So therefore you could do a kinyan Meshicha there. So that's the same with Tzidei Rishus Harabim, the sides of the Rishus Harabim. Ravashi gives a different answer. that when it said in the Braisa, the main question was regarding the person dragging it out into the Rishus Harabim. The Braisa says you potter because you're doing the Chilul Shabbos and the Geneva at the same time. So how do you have both Chilul Shabbos and Geneva at the same time, even though that the whole question here is that in the Rishus Harabim it's either one or the other. That when the person dragged it out into the Rishus Harabim, so he dragged the Rishus Yachid is a bit elevated above the Rishus Harabim. When he brings it out into the Rishus Harabim, he places his hand there, and it goes straight from the Rishus Yachid into the domain of the Rishus Harabim, but into his hand. So in such a case, when it goes directly into his hand, again, tzirif yad lamata mishleisha v'kibloi. So then, on one hand, it's Chilul Shabbos, he took it out into the Rishus Harabim, but at the same time, it also went into his hand, and therefore there's a kinyan that takes place, not Mashiach, but the kinyan of it going into his hand. Kedirave, and this is based on also something that Rava said. Rava said, Yadish aladim chashuv alei karbal arba. Person's hand, the space of a person's hand, even though it's pretty small, but nevertheless, the space of a person's hand has chshivus, it has significance, as if it's 4x4 tfachim wide. And therefore, regarding Shabbos, we say that there's a rule. Every time you put something down, it has to be in a space of dalet al dalet. So from Shabbos, we learn that, and we apply also regarding a kinyan, that if something goes into your hand, you kain it, it's significant enough that you can be kain it with your hand. That's Rashi's pshat in the Gemara. Tosfos has a big argument here, but this is the way Rashi understands the Gemara. Another pshat says the Gemara as follows. Now, Rav Acha masni hachi. Rav Acha said the same answer like Rav Ashi said. But Ravina masni, Ravina actually said, and he goes back and he disagrees with the whole premise of this whole discussion here. What happened is he took out this wallet straight into the Rishus Harabim. Our question was in the Rishus Harabim, the kinyan Mashiach does not take effect. He says no. The kinyan of Mashiach is in the Rishus Harabim as well. So he argues with the whole premise of the question. Says the Gemara, now they were arguing here. We have here nu machlokes now, whether kinyan Mashiach could take place in the Rishus Harabim or not. They're both arguing in how you understand the pshat of the following Mishnah. So in the Mishnah we learned it says so regarding this is regarding also a ganav. A ganav, he's stealing a behemoth and he's pulling it, he's taking it out from the owner's property. So he's pulling it out, and then it dies, just a natural death. It dies right over there when it's still in the owner's possession. Potter. So the ganav is not responsible for this. So Einus took place, and he was never kaina it yet. He never took it and made it his. So he's not responsible for this Einus that happened here. But if he picked it up, he already took it out from the owner's possession, and now it dies. And even if it dies, just like an Einus happens, nevertheless, you're a ganav, you were kaina it. Now you're responsible to pay even for an Einus chayiv. That's the Mishnah.
What's the difference?
So now the Gemara brings what they argue here. Ravina daik mireisha. Ravina says that you could see from the reisha that the kinyan of Mashiach is even into Rishus Harabim. And Rav Acha daik miseifer. Rav Acha is medaik from the sefer that the kinyan of Mashiach is not into Rishus Harabim, as the Gemara explains. Ravina daik mireisha. Ravina says, look at what you could learn from the reisha. What does it say? He was taking the behema out and it died before you took it out. It's still in the rishus of the owner, so you'll be potter. You're not responsible for the death that happened. So what do you understand from this time at the meis b'rishus bailam? The only reason he was not kaina it yet is because the animal is still in the rishus of the owner. But if he had taken it out from the owner's property to anywhere, even into the rishus harabim, chayiv, he would be chayiv for that. So you see that the kinyan of Mashiach is any place you take it out from the rishus of the owner, not only into another private place, but even into the rishus harabim. So this is the source of Ravina that Mashiach is kind of even taking it into rishus harabim. On the other hand, Rav Acha daik miseifer. Rav Acha says from the sefer of the Mishnah, you see the opposite is true, because it says he lifted up this animal, or he took it out of his possession. I compare these two. Taking it out is similar to when you lift it up. Just like when you lift it up, you're taking it into your hands. The Hagbah is kind of, even when you're in the rishus of the owner, your hands is your own domain. So that's the reason why you're kind of. So too, when it says taking it out doesn't mean into the rishus harabim. It means taking it out into a private place, into your domain. That's when you're going to be chayiv. So therefore, from the seif of the Mishnah, you see that Mashiach has to be to your rishus, not just to a rishus harabim. So the Gemara now says, L'Ravache kashi reisha. So according to Ravache, there's a question that from the reisha of the Mishnah, you see not like what he said, and L'Ravina kashi seifa. According to Ravina, you see from the seifa not like what he said. So the answer is, reisha L'Ravache l'kashi. From the reisha, there's no question on Ravache that says that you're not kind if you take it into the Rishus Harabim, because kama doli osi l'Rishusei, as long as he didn't bring this behemoth into his own Rishus, Rishus Bailam Karina Bey. That's still considered to be Rishus Bailam. It's still in the Rishus of the owner until you don't come into your own private place. It's still the Rishus of the owner. And that's what the Braisa meant to say, that if it died when it's still in the Rishus of the owner, that includes even the Rishus Harabim. Seifer, l'Ravina l'Kasheh. According to Ravina, when it says in the Seifer, they it has to be similar to lifting it up. But that, he says, no, we don't make that comparison. When the Sefer says you take it out, and it seems like it's comparing to lifting it up, just like lifting it up is in your private hands, in your domain, that taking it out is also in your private domain. Not necessarily. Haitzah means even into a Rishus Harabim, not your private domain, and lifting it up means in your hands, and it becomes your private domain. So therefore we have here a very fundamental machlekes regarding the kinyan of Mashiach, whether it's even to a Rishus Harabim or only into your own private domain, or at least a place where the Rabbim doesn't go there.